podcast never felt this great. Tables, ladders, chairs, they tell it all. From the highest highs to the lowest falls. Great and glory tales from the ring. Every chant, every cheer they'll bring. Devon and the Duke bring the heat. Wrestling tales knock you off your seat. Tune in now, don't you be late. Wrestling podcast never felt this great.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Devon and the Duke podcast. This is a limited edition series hosted by your main man, Duke Loves Rasslin, and of course, the five-time Hall of Famer himself, one of the greatest of all time, Brother Devon Dudley. What's going on there, Devon?
What's going on, man? Same old, just relaxing, trying to relax, you know. Uh, it's hard. It's hard being Devon.
It's hard being Devon, man. You highly favored over there. Somebody told me you were working on your tan down there in Florida.
Listen, I'm always working on that.
But you know what? I got to ask you this question. And I love asking this question because people are so surprised. Do you burn at all in the sun?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Got you.
I've fallen asleep in this, on the lawn chair, right directly with the sun on me, everything for about an hour, 2 hours, and nothing.
See?
Shit, I'll get dark as hell, but
But you don't burn. You don't burn at all.
No, nope.
See, me, I'll burn. There's a limit. If I'm out in the sun without a hat on or without being covered up, I actually do have to wear. I don't have to wear strong, but I do have to wear sunblock. Low level sunblock. I definitely burn, and it's crazy because people would be like, "You're black. What do you mean you burn?" And it's like, hey, man, it is what it is. I didn't make myself. I don't know. It just
Exactly.
is what it is. But that's wild. So you've been getting some good weather down there, though, huh?
Yeah, it's been real good. It's been to the point where it's been sunny all day, nice, not too hot, not too humid.
That's wild. That's wild. Today, as we record this, we hit 70 degrees here in Boston, right? Now follow me on this. We hit 70 degrees today. By Sunday, it'll be snowing again. That's in the forecast. In Boston. So it's not going to be snow that sticks, but we're going to get some flakes and we're definitely going to see it. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that you should be arrested for leaving the Northeast and going down to Florida and showing off with all that nice weather and what have you here, man. You're supposed to be roughing it out like us, brother. I don't know who you think you are, man.
Listen, I can't blame them if they want to come down here. It ain't no joke, man. It ain't no joke. Dealing with that cold weather. 1 minute you're taking your clothes off, the next minute you're throwing them right back on, full tilt. I mean, my great grandmother used to say, don't take your clothes off yet. It ain't getting that warm.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be cold tomorrow, and she was right.
It's like you put the air conditioner in for a day, and then you got to turn the heat back up 2 days later. It just is what it is.
Exactly.
It just is what it is, But that's funny. Listen, man, I don't know what the hell is going on here, but we are on the road to WrestleMania, and John Cena's on his farewell tour, and I don't know. He came out of nowhere, and suddenly he is cutting some of the greatest promos, at least for me, that I've ever seen. And I've seen them all. I've seen Dusty. I've seen Flair. I've seen Hogan. Bullet Bob Armstrong. I've seen them all. John Cena, for my taste, is right up there with some of the stuff he's been doing lately, man. So I want to hear it from you as the expert, as the Hall of Famer, five-time Hall of Famer. What is going on with these promos from Cena, man? Am I a prisoner of the moment, or is this high quality stuff?
Well, I think it's just Cena at his best. I mean, if you think about it, Cena was always a good promo cutter. Cena basically was able to capture the crowd whenever he went out there. and did it even more when he was rapping doing promos. And I remember when people first started hearing him not rap, but just kind of regular promo, it was kind of hard for them because they were used to seeing and hearing Cena rap. And then somewhere along the line, when he stopped rapping and he started cutting promos regular, it was almost like he found another niche in how to be very witty and not having to use the rap, but now cutting you in a different way. And it worked. And I think the promo that him and Cody did was definitely a prime example. It was one of those things where, I was very happy um, to see Cody, being able to hang with John. He did just that. He did. He hung very, very well with John. I thought the promo was excellent. I thought them taking the digs, it wasn't disrespectful. I'm sure they talked before they got out to the ring about stuff like that. And I'm sure they both said, you know what? Let's just make this good TV and go out there and have fun. Because that's what you have to do.
That's interesting. So when it comes to being in a promo battle, it's customary to speak to the other party beforehand before you go out there and start talking that stuff.
Well, out of respect, it's a little bit respectful to, hey, I'm going to say this, or I might say that. I might say a couple of things. Are you okay with that? And, with me, I was just like, yeah, go ahead. I don't care. Just don't bury my kids. Don't bury my wife and kids. I don't want to hear that. But other than that, that's it. And even when me and the Pope and TNA did a storyline where he was coming in to steal my kids and my wife and this and that, you know, it was never a point where it was disrespectful, where Pope came at me very disrespectful. It was always good. And he basically showed me that you can actually do stuff like that without having to get disrespectful. That's one of my biggest pet peeves about today's promos. They get the wow from the crowd or wow from the boys. It's like, I can't believe he said that, but yet at what cost? How bad did it hurt the person you were talking to? And it's not about being a wuss. It's just that for certain things shouldn't be talked about.
I agree. I agree. If you can't find enough material about the character, then you ain't working hard enough. You know what I'm saying? Why do you have to go into somebody's personal life? I never
Yeah, I agree
understood
with
that.
that.
I never understood that. It's like keep it business. Please keep it business. Um, there was a point where Cena said, I build empires for billionaires. You just steal money from their kids. What did you think about that point there when Cena dropped that one?
Well, he's telling the truth on that in terms of not the Cody Rhodes thing, but he made these men billionaires. And I'm sure he's referring to Vince because WWE was the only company that he's ever worked for. So I'm sure he's referring to that. But he's telling the truth on that aspect. Now, the other thing about Cody, I'm not going to say he's telling the truth. I don't know. I'll stay out of that one. But as far as building or making billionaires money, absolutely he's done that. He's done that forever, however long he was here in WWE. That's what he did. And I'm sure outside of the wrestling world, because I know he was a bodybuilder and he looked excellent as a bodybuilder. I'm sure he probably did the same thing in that world. So it's not like he was lying, you know?
No, not at all. And obviously the reference he's making is in terms of Cody, he's making reference to Tony Khan. So listen, that might be the
Oh, wait a minute.
most.
I didn't hold on. I didn't get that.
Oh yeah,
Why
when
why would he make reference to when he said making billionaire?
well, because he said that I, meaning himself, John Cena, uh, build empires for billionaires, make them all this money, while you just steal money from their kids. Tony Khan's father is a billionaire, so Tony Khan is the child of a billionaire, and he's the one who put up the money to start AEW. And Cody Rhodes was one of the original people who was brought in to launch that company. So that's what Cena was making reference to.
Wow. All right. Well, again, great promo.
Listen,
Great promo. I'm
what,
not gonna get involved
what,
too much.
what was that the old timers used to say back in the day? The real old school players. He cut him down to the white meat when he said
Come
that
down to the
one.
white meat. I think that is definitely what he did. I think that's definitely what he did. But I'm still trying to. I understand what you said, but explain to me the whole Tony thing again.
Well, because Tony Khan took $100 million. Yeah, he took $100 million and launched AEW. But Tony Khan didn't make $100 million in his lifetime. That's his daddy's money. That's really his trust fund money, his inheritance, which his father has admitted. So while John Cena is such a big superstar, he has helped Vince McMahon not only become but actually stay a billionaire. Cody Rhodes
Hmm.
went to the son of a billionaire and launched this other company that to this day is still not doing that well. So Cena is
No,
saying,
well,
"You're not on my level, son. I build empires, while you just steal money from rich people's kids."
okay, okay, I get it now. It's well, I mean, again, it's unfortunate. It seems to come off as truth. I mean, I'm not gonna say stealing, but he started a company with Tony Khan's money. And again, I mean, with Tony, I don't know, man. It's just every time I try to give this guy the benefit of the doubt, and it just seems like I don't even if he buries himself or other people just like to bury him. I don't know. Like there's a lot of unhappy people, from my understanding, that are in AEW right now. And I hate to say it, Tony, and if you're listening, I'm telling you what's being said because of the fact that they're not being used appropriately. You only have so much time on your TV show, which I completely understand because it was like that on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown at one point. That's why we had the shows like Sunday Night Heat and Velocity. Even though it wasn't Raw or SmackDown, you still got a chance to be shown and seen. But you know, people are upset because they're not getting any time whatsoever. You have what is it, Dynamite
Yep,
that's still active?
yep.
Dynamite, you have ROH. And a lot of these guys are coming to work and sitting and catering and they're getting fed up with it. And some of them are asking for their contracts to be done with. They want to get out. They want to go somewhere where they're going to be used, and you can't blame them. It's not like that movie Richard Pryor, The Toy. And Jackie Gleason. I forgot what the little kid's name was, but he's all grown now. I saw him at an autograph signing, and he's a wrestling fan. And he said, "I honestly thought when I saw the movie The Toy, I mean, when I saw AEW, I thought they were, I thought it was a joke because I thought they were building another movie called like Toy 2. But Richard is no longer here anymore, which made the movie. Richard Pryor passed on. But, that's what he told me. And I never put two and two together when I realized that what he did in the movie as a kid and what Tony Khan is doing. As a kid, he saw a black guy in a department store, meaning the movie The Toy, and thought he was the funniest thing there was. He was a rich, spoiled kid. And all of a sudden, the butler says, "What do you want for Christmas?" He goes, "I want him. I want him. I want him, Dad." And he was like, "You can't do that. That's a person. What kind of toy do you want?" "I don't want a toy." He was a spoiled brat. "I don't want a toy. I want him, him, him." So the father makes a attempt to buy Richard Pryor for however many weeks in the movie they said, and to be the little kid's toy. And I feel like that's what Tony's doing with the wrestlers. He's using them as the toys. Before he puts them back on the shelf, he plays with them for a little bit and then puts them right back on the shelves until he either wants to play with them again or something new comes in and he has another toy to play with. I hate to say it that way, but guys, you can get mad at you all you want, but look at the TV and look at what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, and you're talking about Scott Schwartz. That's the young man's name. I guess he's not a young
Yes.
man anymore.
No,
He's a grown
I
man.
met him. Yeah, I met him. I didn't realize how much of a wrestling fan he was. Huge wrestling fan. But when he said that to me, he thought that AEW was like a spoof or a spinoff of his movie. And I was like, wow, I never looked at it that way. I was
Yes.
like, but what you're saying is very accurate. If you ever watch the movie, if you've never watched it, watch it and then go back and see what's going on in AEW now. It's pretty much the same thing.
Listen, Scotty Schwartz, we're plugging that movie there. That's Devon just pulled out a huge one. So you start seeing those residuals go up, brother. You're gonna know why. Everybody
Exactly.
take some
Exactly. And
time.
again,
hold on. Take some time, everybody. Go
Hmm.
watch The Toy when you get a chance. Please go watch The Toy,
Yes.
and you'll see it from yourself exactly what Devon is talking about. Because golly, you're absolutely right, bro. It's almost identical.
Hmm.
Damn.
It really is. It really is. He gets tired with one toy, he puts it back, he plays with the next toy. He gets tired with that toy, he puts it up on the shelf, and he goes plays with that one. It's so freaking right on the money.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Listen, I know we're getting off the beaten path for a minute here, but I want to stay with something because I watched a my lady and I we watched a documentary last weekend. It's a two-part documentary. If I'm not mistaken, it's on Apple Plus. Um, it's about being number one on the call sheet in acting. And so there's the part one, they interviewed a bunch of black actors talking about how it feels to be number one on the call sheet, meaning that you're the draw, you're the top person for whatever film or project you're working on. And then part two, they talked to a bunch of black female actors. But one of the things that was brought up that completely blew me away because I'd never actually thought about it. Brother, Eddie Murphy is one of the most accomplished actors ever. Forget about comedian. As an actor, when he did in the 80s, when he did Beverly Hills Cop, Trading Places, 48 Hours, all Coming to America, all of that happened within the same decade, brother. Think about that. It all happened within the same 10-year period, all those movies, man. How
Yeah.
cr-
I
and and
mean,
and he did Raw. I think it was Delirious. Excuse me. I think he did Raw during that time period too.
he might have. I'm not sure. I do know that it was like, mm, let me think about it. Hold on. I think Raw came out in 85, I think, 84, 85.
Yeah,
Um,
us look at this. Let me help you out here. 48 Hours, 1982. Trading Places, 83. Uh, Beverly Hills Cop, 84. The Golden Child, 86. Beverly Hills Cop 2, 87. Raw, 87. Coming to America, 88. Harlem Nights, 89. And then another 48 Hours was 1990.
right.
That might be the greatest 8-year period ever in film.
I mean, that was when films was hot. Everybody, think about it. At that time, the Terminator. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Conan, things like that. I mean, it was huge.
Huge.
The movies, cinema was huge back then. It really was.
But for a black person, he was a young guy. I mean, when he started, he was only like
Well,
19 years
for
old.
right for a black man, period. Back in the '80s, that was huge because remember, the civil rights movement had just ended. You
Yep.
know, and the Jim Crow laws and all of that had just ended. So black people were still feeling the effects of all of that stuff that went down, and it was very unheard of for a black man to be that rich. Listen, this is why I honestly believe the theory about Michael Jackson. They did whatever they had to do to crucify that man. They tried to get him twice on the child molestation. And do I believe it? No, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. Because I have kids. Okay. And if anybody molested my kids, I don't care how famous they are, how much money they have, you couldn't pay me enough to not want to whoop their ass or not want to make sure that they pay for their crimes.
Yep.
And these parents took the money. Not to mention a lot of these other kids that were there during that time said that they were there when these kids claimed whatever, and it's like that never happened. But the media wants you to believe so much that Michael was guilty that they planted in people's head, even to the point where he wanted to be white because he bleached his skin. And that wasn't the case. I forget what the name of the disease was, but he had the blotches in his skin
Mm.
because of whatever that disease was. And they showed that during the autopsy. You can see it. I mean, I saw the pictures of the autopsy that they did, and where the body was just sitting there, and you can see the blotches on his skin that he had. I'm sorry, you just can't make me believe that he did that. As popular as he was he not right in the head for thinking he's Peter Pan? Okay, I'll give you that. There should have been not no grown man should be sharing their bed with a child. I get that unless it's your own kid, within reason, of course. But again, I don't believe that at all. But I also don't. I just believe Michael was just, he was just a real kid at heart, and he just didn't. Not that he didn't know any better, because there were people telling him that he should stop, especially after the first accusation, and he just didn't want to listen because he just thought it was innocent. I think the Beatles catalog, um, even owned Eminem stuff. From what I heard, I guess when Eminem insulted him in that video, I forget the name of it, but he went and bought the rights to Eminem's music, and then when Eminem would sing that song, Michael would get paid for it. I mean, Michael owned a lot of stuff. He pretty much had a percentage of Sony, and he said they're trying to kill me because they want the rights because he would not sell the Beatles catalog, which was worth billions of dollars. Paul McCartney tried to get it back, and he couldn't, and Michael wouldn't give it back to him, and they were best friends, and that was what put a damper on their friendship because of that. I heard that they had made up before he died, but think about how much money, how much power this man had. What black man in America has that much power?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely. In fact, who was bigger than Michael Jackson in our lifetime? When we talk about Michael Jackson at the peak of his fame, could you name even one other person who was anywhere close to that?
There was nobody closer or bigger than Michael Jackson. And the only one that maybe not even close. Now, I'm not saying he was close, but definitely he could have been in the running was Elvis.
Yeah,
In
yeah, and
terms
he
of,
wasn't even close. Yeah,
and he wasn't even close, although they wanted to make him close, but he wasn't. For Michael to surpass the Beatles, that was unheard of. And then I just found out that Whitney Houston did the same thing with her second, I think it was her second album. She
great
just
point.
surpassed the Beatles. And again, look at him. Michael dead. Whitney dead mysteriously. Think about it. Michael, nobody knows what happened after Doctor Conroy, whatever his name was, after he left the room. Supposedly, Michael went into cardiac arrest because of the drug that they were putting him to sleep, and now all of a sudden he's dead. Whitney Houston left in a tub, which she normally did, and then all of a sudden the guy comes in, finds her face down, leaves the room for a little bit, comes back, thought she was fine. Well, he had no reason to not want to step out of the room. He steps out of the room, comes back, dead. I know Prince had a lot of stuff too. I can't quote me on how much stuff he had, but he had the right to his own music. Listen, what black man has the full rights to his own music, and can get away with it? Prince did whatever he wanted to do and paid the ultimate price for it.
Well
you
said.
know
Yeah,
finding him dead in the elevator, in his own elevator. I mean, they're saying it was an overdose because of the painkiller, because his body was so battered and bruising from all the dancing that he did over the years. But again, that's just something.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, and I agree. When you know, for some of you younger folks out here who did not live it, you have no idea the mega stardom. People were passing out, screaming out of their mind and passing out like they saw God himself when they would see Michael Jackson.
I saw something they asked, was it Tito? It was somebody asked Tito Jackson, the other Jackson that just passed away, came to him and said, was Michael gay? And Tito said, "No, my brother wasn't gay." And as he said, "I tell you what, leave your wife in the room with him for a day and see what happens." Because he's telling the truth.
Well, listen.
Listen, he had grown men screaming and crying.
Yeah, he sure did.
I mean, he had me crying and screaming.
Yeah, same, same.
As I was what, 15 years, 14, 15 years old, saw the Victory Tour, lost my damn mind when he came out.
Wow.
I was a huge Michael Jackson fan. I tell that story all the time. People laugh at me, but I don't give a damn. That's how much of a big fan I was of Michael. And it had just gotten to the point where, you look at it and think about what this man did when he came out there and captivated an audience. No other entertainer, not music, professional sports, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, pro wrestling, has ever done what Michael has done.
No, doesn't even come close.
Nope.
Doesn't even come close. It's amazing because again, if you'd never lived it, you would have no frame of reference. Because since then, we really haven't seen anything like it. No one
Uh-uh.
has achieved that level of stardom since Michael Jackson.
And
So
you know
it's
what's sad?
yeah,
Somebody brought this up too. They said, look at it. All the icons are gone.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They don't
Michael,
exist.
gone.
They don't exist anymore.
No, Prince, gone. Whitney, gone.
Yeah,
The only one that's left is Madonna.
yeah. And she
You
keeps a
think about
fairly
it.
low
From that
profile.
era, very low. And from that era, she's the only one left.
Yeah, yeah. She keeps a
Everybody else is
very low
gone.
profile. It's true. It's true.
Yep. I mean, who else? I mean, God, there was nobody on that level that had achieved what those people have achieved. And I don't know if we'll ever see that in our lifetime.
No,
Because
I
these
think it's
these
over.
singers, these singers and R&Bs today, they don't have what it takes. They're not gonna, these Whitney Houston, Prince, Michael Jackson, their music will last from now until 5, 6, 7 generations.
Yep.
Look at Billie Jean.
Yep.
You
Yep.
can't tell me anytime you hear Billie Jean, look around the place where it's being played and see if somebody's foot don't start tapping or their hand don't start hitting the table.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The whole Thriller album, when you think about it,
From top to bottom, the
top to
whole Thriller
bottom.
album, and there's no artist today that can be in the same category as a Michael Jackson, a Prince, or Whitney Houston. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
these artists just don't have it today like they did back in the 80s and 90s. They just don't, and it's not knocking them. And half of them will tell you the same thing. Look, Michael was influencing both Chris Brown and Usher. I mean, they loved that man. That was one, and even you right on up. Bruno Mars.
Oh, Bruno Mars. Yeah, of course. Of course.
Bruno Mars, same thing. Influenced by Michael.
Yeah, you can see
Loved
it.
Michael.
You can
When
see
you
it.
see him dance,
Yeah.
him, Chris Brown, and Usher, put all three of them together, all three of them are Michael Jackson reincarnated. No question about it. Chris Brown is probably the closest you'll get. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Bruno Mars is the closest you'll get to Michael. But before Bruno Mars came around, Chris Brown was the closest you'll get to it in terms of dancing and how he looked when he danced and
Sure. Being
performed.
an
Because
entertainer overall. Yeah.
he mimicked Michael to the T.
Yep.
And he said he did. He said all his dance moves came from Michael.
Yeah, because Michael made it
So
cool to actually know how to dance. That's the thing.
oh yeah. And the thing about it is Michael wasn't the first one to do the moonwalk.
No.
People were doing the moonwalk back in the projects when I grew up in Brooklyn. We were all doing that, just for fun. Michael was the first one to bring it to a national attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what Michael did.
Mm-hmm.
And when he did that, that blew up everything. Motown 25, 1983.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I remember it.
Nobody, no, and if it wasn't for Michael holding his ground and saying he was going to perform for Motown 25, but he needed a solo performance. He was going to be on stage with his brothers, reuniting, doing everything that they used to do from ABC to I Want Your Back, everything. But he needed to do this one thing. And boy, did he do it. Because if it wasn't for the Motown 25, I don't know if Michael would have took off as big as he did in the 80s so fast. That Motown 25 took him to another atmosphere. I mean, it just launched him.
Brother, when he put on that hat and then he did a couple of moves and he threw that hat, it was over. I'm talking before the moonwalk. Oh my God.
One of the greatest dancers of the 19th century. I'm sorry, of the 20th century, Fred Astaire,
Yep.
called Michael after his performance on Motown 25 and said, I had never seen anything like that before in my life. Where did you learn how to dance like that? Michael said he was so taken back, he started crying. He was like, because he was such a big fan of Fred Astaire. Because remember, back then, Fred Astaire, no one can dance like Fred Astaire. No one. He was probably one of the baddest white guys there was to ever see dance. Because remember, And I tell this story all the time. I was like, Eddie Murphy used to make fun and his jokes about white people dancing. And boy, have they come a long way since then, because now you can't joke like that because now everybody's dancing and everybody does a great job in every race.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I mean, Jesus, with Dancing with the Stars and all these other shows too, I mean, people are encouraged to dance and to be
Hmm.
comfortable with dancing different styles and what have you. But again, Michael Jackson, man, that level of stardom, can't touch it. That period of time where we had icons, real icons, and I know we got
Jeez.
there first talking about Eddie Murphy. To have that many hit movies and to be a young black man and you're the star is unheard of. Even today, it's unheard of. You know
Think
what
of
I
what he
mean?
did on think of what he did on Saturday Night Live.
Hmm.
He was a black man that came on Saturday Night Live. Not only that, but proved that he could handle himself and got to do whatever he wanted to do on that show. Not even a white, not even James Belushi, and all those, and Dan Aykroyd could do that. But Eddie Murphy came in, showed what he can do, took over. The ratings shot up, and then the producers and writers of Saturday Night Live said he can do whatever he wants. Let's give him his own skit to do, and blew it out the water.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Gumby was one.
James
James
Brown.
Brown, Hot Tub. I mean, the list goes on and on. And would say whatever he wanted to say because it was live TV. You
Yeah,
couldn't do anything, and you couldn't get rid of him. He was so damn hot at that time, you could not get rid of him.
it's true.
He could do no wrong. It was like, okay, I'll say sorry when I'm done saying what I'm saying.
Well, here's the worst part, or the most fascinating part. He was only 18, 19 years old at that point.
Hmm.
He wasn't even a grown man.
Nope.
Jeez. That blows my mind, man. It completely blows my mind that somebody could be that talented and break through that way, you know?
Mm.
So,
Especially during that time.
especially during that time, because it was unheard of. I mean, there was
Hmm.
no other black actor who was given that level of star. You'd have to go all the way back to Sidney Poitier in order to
Yeah.
see an equivalent. And that, I mean, you're going back how many years, brother? You're going back
I
10,
mean,
15 years before that.
but you also got to think about it too. They tried to screw him over.
Of course,
He
at
was
every
in,
turn. Yeah.
with the transvestite in the car.
Yeah, Eddie. Yep.
Eddie said that he was only given a ride to help out and this and that. They took it to another level. I mean, that was one. Michael with the whole molestation. Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, with the gambling.
Yep.
It wasn't like not saying anything bad about Pete Rose. He didn't bet on basketball. He was betting in Vegas, playing slot machines and gambling.
With his own money.
With his own money. He wasn't betting against the NBA, but they took it to a whole new level, trying to make it look like he had a gambling problem, and so on and so on. They tried to destroy Michael Jordan.
Yeah. It's interesting, the history of all this stuff. And I'm glad that we went that direction, because let's bring it back to something that happened recently. We have Booker T. He's a multi-time Hall of Famer in his own right. He is somebody who is an icon in his own right. Booker, he's still hot to this day. People want to do business with Booker T, no question about it. He got into a little bit of hot water, and it all centers around a interview that Swerve did on Vlad TV.
Mhm.
Swerve was asked about about a statement that Booker T had made in relation to the reporting on Swerve's contract in AEW. The reporting is that Swerve got one of the biggest contracts ever in wrestling and what have you here. And Booker said, well, listen, if the contract is that big, we're talking what, $5-10 million. If it's really that big, then what did they pay for? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
What does Swerve do to get a 5, 6, 7, 8, $10 million contract? That doesn't make sense. I don't think Booker was necessarily trying to take a shot at Swerve. I think he was more saying the reporting doesn't seem to be accurate. That's my interpretation of what he said when he said that at the time. Well, Vlad from Vlad TV asked Swerve that question. What did you think about Booker saying that about you? And then Swerve was like, well, I don't know why Booker's talking trash. I mean, here's a guy who let Vince McMahon say the N word to his face on national TV. So Booker talked about it on his own show, and Booker's had a lot to say. But the gist of it is like, look, I paved the way for Swerve to even exist. The things I had to deal with and overcome, the racism in wrestling, and just because I'm not out here publicly talking about every single time I encountered racism and I had to whoop somebody's ass over it and what have you, I just deal with things behind the scenes, man. I don't need to go talk about it to everybody, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I didn't get here overnight. I didn't get here by accident. I had to endure a lot to get here, and that made it easier for guys of your generation to be here. So you let Vlad pit you against me. You took the bait. That was the gist of what Booker said. And then Booker said, listen, I was invited to be on Vlad, and I declined to be on that show because I don't particularly care for the guy. So Vlad posts screenshots of text messages that he had with Booker T, and they had actually agreed to have Booker on the show, Vlad TV, and Booker actually went to a location to film, and Vlad was late, and he was so late that Booker just left. And Vlad was apologizing, hey man, what can we do to make it right, whatever, whatever. But Booker left. So what Vlad didn't point out is that Booker refused to do a makeup. And over a period of years, which Booker had posted those screenshots, he showed that, Vlad kept trying to get me back, and I told him no thank you. So although Booker didn't tell the full story that originally they were supposed to do something together, he didn't lie. He did actually turn down the Vlad interview in the end. So it is what it is. Well, Vlad took offense to Booker talking like that and took it a step further and posts a photo of Booker being at Chase and Rance's training school. And for anyone listening right now who doesn't know who Chase and Rance is, he's a guy who is a well-known figure in pro wrestling for being a trainer and a I guess we'd say a former pro wrestler. I don't know how active he is these days, but Chase and Rance is also a convicted sex offender, and he's a registered sex offender as a result of what he's done. So for Booker T to openly be taking photos with that guy, a lot of people have a problem with that. And Vlad, knowing that, posted that and was kind of poking fun at Booker for keeping that kind of company. Booker T ended up trending because of that post. And people are going crazy.
Right.
TMZ picked it up. Fox News picked it up. Everybody picked it up. It went mainstream. So there's a lot to unpack there. And I don't want to spend all day talking about that stuff. I want to focus on something most important here. There's a philosophy within our culture that we should try to work out our differences. Even if we agree to disagree, we should try to work out our differences face to face. We shouldn't be out here arguing in public with one another as black men in front of folks who actually want to see that happen so that they can continue to diminish each of us and all of us, especially if you're somebody of stature and you have an established brand and what have you, like Booker has, and quite frankly, like Swerve has. It's not as big as Booker. It's not as big as yours, but Swerve is the current generation, and he's still on the upswing. He's building something. What say you in that regard there, Devon? I mean, do you buy into that philosophy of we should work it out behind the scenes? We shouldn't be out here in public carrying on like that? Or are you the other way where it's like, no, we're going to talk about this in front of everybody so people understand you don't come at me like that?
No, I've learned my lesson because me and New Jack, who I went public and said on my YouTube channel, did that. Jack had said something about me. I got offended and said something about him. Let me retract that. He said something about me to some fans. These fans were total marks, and these are the guys that waited for you at the airport for you to sign autographs and things like that. And I remember I had just got with WWE, and everything was going really well for me and Bubba. And I remember these two guys come up to me and said, "Hey, you know, New Jack was talking crap about you." And of course, they threw the line. I bit it hook, line, and sinker. I was like, "Oh, really? What'd he say?" And said this and that, and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Oh, really? Well, you go back and tell him I said this." I said, and he had it like his phone, like he was trying to record. He's like, "You mind if I record it?" I said, "No, go ahead, do it." I fell for it, and I said what I said to him in retaliation to what he said about me. And the next thing you know, it just went crazy. He went online and started talking stuff about me. I went back online, started talking stuff about him. It was a very, very bitter thing that we did. Very messed up because we let outside people talk us into doing that, and I regretted it. So, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I don't think that neither one of them should let the press or these smart marks or these sheet writers get the better of them and let them tear down one another. We're both at the end of the day, we're black men trying to survive. And I hate to say this, but like Coco Beware once told me and Bad News Brown, it's a white man's business. And I know, Devon, I can't believe you said that. No, it's the truth. You know, Tagging with someone of the opposite race. Bubba was, Bubba, people say he's a loudmouth, this and that, blah, 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 he politics and blah, blah, blah. Bubba, pissed off a lot of people along the way in the office because he was so passionate for what he believed in and he was willing to stick his guns. 90% of the times he was right, but he had that New York attitude about him. So it came off very strong. And it came off strong to the point where some people were scared of him. Some people would deliberately try to mess with Bubba and to try to get him to break and so he can go off and they'd fire him. But my point to this is Bubba, did that back then and was able to get away with it. I couldn't do that. As a black man in this business, I couldn't do that. I got permission from John Laurinaitis um, for this whole thing with Vince and John went down. I got permission to go do an autograph signing in the UK. And because I had a stroke the first year they came to me, and then they said, okay, we're gonna do it next year, we'll postpone it. The next year, the pandemic hit. No, I'm sorry, my back surgery. So I couldn't do it because of my back surgery, I couldn't fly. The next year was the pandemic. So they postponed. So three different times. And all three different times I remember asking Laurinaitis, can I can I still be able to do this show? He said, Devon, you don't have to ask me. I already gave you permission. He was like, I thought you did the show. And I explained to him, the stroke, the back surgery, the pandemic, it all got canceled. He was like, oh yeah, you got permission. Go ahead. So then the year after the pandemic, here comes the show up. I basically go and I pretty much go to Laurinaitis right before everything went down with Vince and him. I said, listen, I know you said yes, but it's still 3 years later. And I want to know if it's still okay for me to do the show. Devon, you got permission. I spoke to talent relations, PR, everything. You're cleared to go. Don't worry about it. I said, okay, cool. Everything happens with Vince and him. They wind up leaving the company. Everything is there. So now all of a sudden, we have new people in charge. I call Bruce Pritchett. Don't want to disrespect. Don't want to say anything wrong. I said, listen, I told him the story. I told him what happened. It got canceled 3 times. Laurinaitis kept telling me I can do it up until last about the month before him and Vince left. I said, I just want to make sure because the autograph signing in the UK is coming up in about 3 months. I just want to make sure it's okay for me to do the show. Duke, I never said I'm going to do the show because they said, I said, I'm asking for permission. Can I still go? Even though I got permission to do it already, I'm asking, can I go? Well, Devon, we don't allow people to do autograph signings. We don't allow talent. I said, Okay, well, first of all, Bruce, I'm not talent anymore. I'm an employee of the company. I'm not talent. Well, yeah, Devon, but still, we don't allow people to do autograph signings outside of this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, so what would you like me to do? Would you like me to tell them no? Because for the last 3 years, I've been telling them yes because I got permission from Laurinaitis and the people who were in talent relations or what have you told me I could do it. And if you're telling me no, then I got to say that I can't do it because you guys don't allow it. Well, let me speak to them and let me see what's happening. Okay, not a problem. You write a letter to them, explaining them what you told me, and then we'll see what they say, and I'll talk to them. I said, okay, fair enough. I'm on my way to freaking NXT. I got my first coaching gig with Steve Carino in the tag team. Very excited. I get a phone call. Devon, sorry, but your position has been filled. And no, I'm sorry, Devon, I'm sorry. Your permission, we're going to do away with it and so forth and so on. I'm like, why? I'm like, I'm going down to NXT to help coach. I don't get what the problem is. And they said, well, you're not no longer needed and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow. I was like, all because I asked for permission to do an autograph signing, that I'm getting let go because of this over something that you guys told me 3 years in a row that I was able to do. And now all of a sudden, it's not like I'm in NXT doing a bad job. I get praises from Matt Bloom. I get praises from the talent that I'm working with. And even Shawn Michaels giving me a good job, Devon, or what have you. So please tell me what's wrong. Please tell me why is my position no longer for me anymore? No one can explain to me. It was like the silent movie. I make phone calls to see what's going on. Everybody, everybody's kind of like they didn't know me. I'm like, all right, cool. Not a problem. Walked away gracefully. Never said anything until now. Never said anything. Um, then I heard that two people within the company who no longer wrestled actually took my position. And I was like, wow. I was like, that's like a kind of slap in the face, you know? All I did was ask for permission that I had already gotten. And for this to have happened, I wonder why. So when the question is asked to me, what do I think and why do I say the things I say it because it's the truth. As a black man, I couldn't do half this stuff. All I did was ask for permission to do something that was already given to me, and you let me go. And you think that's correct? So when you ask me about racism, or I'm not gonna say racism, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. And when you ask me about what I think about certain people that look at things like that, I'm like, yeah, it's out there. It's alive and well. Understand this, dirt sheet writers. I'm not saying that the WWE is racist. I'm not saying that at all. So don't put that in your dirt sheets. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that it didn't make sense for me to be on a chopping block when all I did was ask for permission for something that I had already gotten permission for. I don't care if the guy was not basically there anymore. You went through talent relations and all of that, and I still lost my job over that. So again, I can't say anything, you know, unless there's repercussions for it. And I'm gonna say this: Triple H has been great. I've got no issues with any of those guys in the office. They've always been straight up with me and this and that. But somewhere, somebody buried me, which is why I'm no longer there. And I got a good feeling who it is. But again, keep it to myself. Don't want to say anything. So dirt sheet writers, don't sit there and say that I said this crap because that's not what I'm saying. Because all they have to do is read the transcript and they'll see what was said. So before you go on and put your pen to paper, be very careful how you write what I said. Because I did not say that anybody in the WWE was a racist. I said there were certain people that I feel that traded in their white sheets for suits. That's all I'm saying. But the names who I'm saying, never had a problem with Triple H, never had a problem with Michael Hayes. Hell, I never even had a problem with Laurinaitis, who a lot of people did, but I never did. No one has given me that type, in that position. Only one person did at one point back in the day, but we won't. Again, I touched on that before, and I'll leave it at that. But there was a reason why, and that's all I'm gonna say on that. But I don't think Booker T and Swerve should have let it go out like that. If they have some beef amongst each other because of something was said, let them do it on the phone or in face to face or in private. Don't go to social media. Don't start dogging this one and dogging that one, because all you're doing is adding gasoline to the fuel to the fire, and people are getting involved that should not be involved. I know you feel like you have to say something and you have to get back, but please just don't. I mean, there's very few of us in this business now that are very successful. Don't mess this up by burying each other. We are our worst enemy. We fight amongst each other, but then yet we want to get mad when the opposite race comes in and wants to use the N word or any other word, but yet we use it amongst each other, and yet we fight amongst each other. We need to stop fighting amongst each other and start banding together and unifying as opposed to being apart. And then maybe we can accomplish something along the way.
Ooh, testify, my brother. Hey,
Absolutely.
you nailed it right there, man. We don't even have to go any further than that. You nailed it. You nailed it.
Hmm.
Please, Swerve, Booker, like Devon said, just come together, man. We don't need to tear each other down and go that far, because as you can see, while y'all are over here um, engaging in that and being, characterized as beating up on each other, Vlad is over there laughing. And listen,
Because he
I
got a
don't,
story.
yeah, yeah. Vlad is over there laughing. And he's getting clicks and he's getting the positive attention and what have you. So who really won in that situation? And to Booker's credit, Booker had pointed that out to Swerve. Like, look, you took the bait, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
why'd you let that man pit us against each other? And look, full disclosure, I enjoy Vlad TV. I'm not going to sit here and play games about that. I think what Vlad has built on his channel is quality stuff. And I know a lot of people got a problem with him personally and what have you, call him a culture vulture and all this other whatever. Look, ain't nobody being forced to be on his channel and do those interviews. So stop it.
Hmm.
Okay. But what I will say is you are 100% in control of how you react when you're asked a question. I'll
Hmm.
pull back the curtain real quick and we'll end it on this. Sometimes I say to Devon, "Hey man, I'm going to bring up this such and such. It's kind of a sensitive topic. We don't have to go there, but this is something that's on the agenda. What do you think?" And Devon, I won't speak for you. How do you respond every time I say that to you?
Go ahead and do it. I know how to handle it.
That's it. That's it. You're not going to say, "Well, Duke set me up and all this other stuff." No, because you're not a fool. You can't be led astray.
I've done a lot of these podcasts, promos, radio interviews. I've done tons of them, which is why I'm able to have the success and feel as comfortable as I do on my YouTube channel.
Yep.
I learn how to relax. I learn how to take it. I've done so many that it just becomes natural now. It's like having a conversation with you. I can just have it and not have to worry about anything. I
Yep.
don't have to worry about my words or what I say, which is why. And I've learned over the years recently that you have to dummy proof everything you say, because if not, the wrong people will take snippets of it, put it on the internet, and blow it way out of proportion. Which is why I had to say, I don't want you to sit here and say I'm calling the WWE racist, because I'm not. Do I think there's certain people within the organization that is? Absolutely. Do I think, like the Honorable Malcolm X said, some of them traded in their white sheets for suits? Absolutely. Because you can't get anywhere with the white sheets now, but you can get somewhere with the suits and pens.
Indeed. Indeed. Speaking of which, Devon, what's the best way that folks can keep up with you? You just mentioned the YouTube channel. Why don't we start with that?
Absolutely. We got over 135,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. We have a new video coming out every Thursday. So please be aware. And every Thursday, check out those new videos. We would love for you to like and subscribe to the channel. And also leave your comments down below as well. I read them all, and I love to hear about what you would want to see on the channel and how you feel that the channel is turning out for you. I get a lot of positive reviews, don't get any negative, thank God. And I'm enjoying myself on that, and really, really keeping up, with everything that's going on now, it actually gives me a foot back into pro wrestling because I learned a lot of stuff, even stuff that I went through that I didn't even realize I went through. So rehashing all the memories and things like that has really, really helped me in that aspect. So that's one way of doing it. You can also contact me on Twitter. Well, I'm sorry, on Instagram at Testify Devon. You can DM me, write me in there. I respond as well. Can't get to you all. Not on there all the time, but I'm on there most of the time. I read the comments on there as well. So please, like the photos or make a comment. Definitely love to talk to you and hear from you.
I love it. I love it. As always, Duke Loves Rasslin on Facebook, on Twitter, DukeLovesRasslin at gmail.com. Let me know what you think. Certainly, folks, as we are on the road to WrestleMania, if you have any WrestleMania-related questions for Devon, this is the perfect time to get them in. Send them in. We can talk about that. We'll definitely go over some of that stuff. Real quick birthday shout outs. We had Marie Shadows just celebrated her birthday. You were interviewed by Marie before. You got anything to say, Marie Shadows?
Marie, happy birthday. Another trip around the sun. Congratulations. Many, many more to you. Much success. And please have a fun and blessed time.
And another one, Danny G, the pride of Rhode Island, a guy who's a huge supporter of everything that we do. A really, really great guy, family man, huge pro wrestling fan. He just celebrated his birthday. Actually, as we record this, is his birthday. Anything for Danny G?
Oh, Danny G, again, congratulations on your birthday. And again, stay safe. And please do me a favor. Don't drink too much. Just go out there and have a good time.
Listen, his wife is going to appreciate that you said that, because if Danny has more than 2 beers, she going and listen, she knows like jujitsu and all that stuff too. Danny's a big boy; he's like 6'3", but his wife will take him out. So it's funny that you say that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she will. So I think Danny better be on his best behavior when it comes to that.
That's right. Listen, before we go.
Also, hold on. Before, also, I almost forgot. I'm going to be at the sports and toy show Saturday, April 5th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be in Massachusetts, just outside of Rhode Island. So come on down. Myself is going to be there. Kurt Angle, Gangrel, Maven. I like to say that bitch. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Zack Ryder, Sergeant Slaughter, and a host of other, former stars that I'm sure you would love to meet, hang out with, get an autograph. And a good friend of mine who I've wrestled many a times and created history, ECW's The Sandman.
Oh, wow. Shout out to Sandman. Yeah, I haven't heard that name in a minute. Shout out to Sandman. I love that.
Absolutely.
All right, Devon, it's that time. What's the word of the week, brother?
Some people will only love you as much as they can use you. Loyalty ends when the benefits stop.
Testify.
My brother.
Strictly for the culture every day. Stepping style in your unique way. Patterns and colors so divine. All about the perfect line. Be yourself, let your spirit fly. In this fashion, you'll touch the sky. Strictly for the culture, brand so fine. Dress to impress and show your shine. Strictly for the culture, every day. Step in style in your unique way.
Visit www.strictlyfortheculture.ca.
Backstage whispers and the crowds roar. From matching giants to legends of yore. Devon's wisdom and Duke's keen view. Every episode feels like it's brand new. Devon and Wrestling podcast never